Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. Hawthorn here, and today we have the last episode of this tutorial series, which is the revealing of the bonus pod. We have been talking about how we can tidy up the room and how we can get some texture done, and today we'll be finishing doing some of the texturing, lighting, maybe introducing another light just to create a more dramatic, cinematic look to the scene, and then we will do some rendering. To start with, I want to continue coloring the umbrella. And first of all, this umbrella is actually of the same mesh, so I'm going to get into edit mode of this umbrella using L to select the stem of the umbrella, the handle of the umbrella, and I will just give the matte gray color to everything. Basically, a skeleton of the umbrella and the stem could be the same thing, but I want to just be a little bit more picky. I'm going to, let's see, the stem can be a bit more difficult to select, so I'm going to get all the entire handle of the umbrella and hide it first. And then to do it from another way round, I'm going to select the umbrella, the shield of the umbrella, and add another material. This time I'm gonna give it, you know what, I'll just make it translucent. I'm going to create a new material, translucent white color, and change the principle to BSDF. We are repeating this step over and over again just for you to get used to how we can quickly do texturing to the scene. And so I'm going to get either translucent BSDF or glass, but yeah, let's try translucent. When I get to translucent and assign it, I have changed everything to translucent white. Some of the umbrella is like this. It's not really for the sun, but it's only for the rain. I'm just making this so we can later on in the rendering, we can see the skeleton of the umbrella even more clearly. So now, after applying to this material, I can hide this as well. What I have left is only the skeleton of the umbrella, right? Now, I can get the either silver just to exaggerate the look or the black shiny black, selecting everything and assigning it. And now, if I get everything back by using Option H, I have the umbrella back in the scene, and of course we don't see it very clearly here, but I'm sure if I change it to render preview and with sufficient lighting, it would look incredible. But anyway, we don't have sufficient lighting for now. We have only an area light as we talked about it yesterday and some emission from the window. In this case, I will continue doing the calculator. The calculator is a bit more difficult, and I will teach you how to do UV mapping later, unless you just want to get the calculator filled with some color and then you do the rendering from afar so you don't see the buttons. But anyway, I'm going to save my file and open a recent file. From file here, I can open recents, and then I can select whatever that is recently done, and let me check. Okay, in this file I have this calculator already mapped. What I can do is to do basic, and it is the same for almost all the softwares, copy and paste. In Mac we have Command C and Command V, right? Once I press Command C, and if you have a PC, you can of course use Control C to copy one selected object. So you first select the mesh and then you copy it, and then now whether you save it or not, you can just quickly go back to the recent file and having this one on. What I can do here is to just replace this calculator with the one that I have copied. I will select this collection and then take the calculator here and delete it with an X. Why do I select this collection? Because I want to paste the copied calculator inside this collection. If I'm selecting the stationary collection, if I'm pasting, the calculator will be happening here, will be pasted here. But at the same time, if I'm selecting like maybe the table collection, when I paste the calculator will be put in the table collection instead. In this case, I have the calculator put here, and from the top view, I can just put it almost at the same position as the one we had just now. I want to zoom in a bit just to make sure that it's not floating much, and then I can just rotate it a little bit just to exaggerate the look. So yeah, from the camera view, I can see the calculator very clearly. Perfect. Or if I want to be a bit pickier, I just put it next to the window so I can have a better light. Anyway, let's move on. What is left? The whiteboard. The whiteboard, originally I have two materials. I'm going to get rid of all those. Get into the edit mode, selecting this. No, I can just create one new material and then get the silver matte. When I get the silver matte material, basically I'm changing the entire board to silver matte. And then I'm selecting the middle part and adding a new material. Let's see if I can have the shiny white. I don't really have a shiny white material. I'm going to create a new one and apply to the material tab. And now if I'm turning to render preview, and as you can see that it's not very reflective, it's not shiny enough because the roughness is still half. So I'm going to reduce the roughness, and as I reduce the roughness, you can see the reflection from the window, right? That's what we are looking for. A whiteboard should be like this. And then the four corners of the whiteboard, let me see if we can have something similar. Maybe yellow is matte, or I can use shiny white to copy it because I want to have the yellow shinish. I change the name and change it to slightly yellowish, because usually plastic, when it's worn off, then it turns a bit yellowish, right? I'm applying the same material to the rest of the corners. I selected the wrong one. This is done. And then last, but certainly not the least, it's a very distorted, wow. Now that I look back into it, I did made a lot of mistake when I work on the modeling of this controller. Anyway, two materials, I'm going to give the yellowish material on the overall mesh, and then I'm going to have the screen of the AC controller, new material here, and yellowish paper. So not as yellowish as the light switch, but it's used. And then I'm going to take the screen. Unfortunately, I did not separate the meshes on the screen here. Otherwise, I can just use L to select only the screen, but I basically have everything just extruded and doing insert face from the same mesh. So what I can do is actually not using the selection box, but a selection circle. The shortcut is C on the keyboard. And when I do that, so sometimes you will make the same mistake. If I do the selection here, how can I switch this selection tool? Is by long pressing this button, and then you will have this list popping up, and then you can select the selection circle. Then you can just click and drag around the screen so that you can select the faces you want to select. And when you are done with it, you cannot just click escape or the right click on the mouse. What you need to do is to just hold this button long enough for the list to show up again. And then you can change it back to selection box. A lot of students ask me the very same question. In this case, you know what to do. Or if you have already selected a large area like this and you just want to refine the selection, what you can do is to use C on the keyboard, and then you can toggle the same, almost the same function as just now, except the fact that you don't have to go to the left-hand side of the screen. And then you just have to drag and make the selection. Sometimes if you want to select some bigger area at once, what you can do is just to scroll on the mouse button up and down to adjust the selection area. In this case, it's a bit more difficult to select what you really need. And in this case, I have some bleeded area. What I can do now is to use escape on the keyboard just to escape this circle selection. And then I can zoom in with the shift that I have here. I can deselect what I don't want. I can do that. Or with the C on, actually, I can just use my key to get rid of the circle selection. Now, I have selected the screen. I'm going to add a new material, and then I will look for I think it's probably this will do, just a shiny subtle gray, and then assign it. Once I assign it, it's a gray screen, which is very eye-catching because from afar you can see it very dark. And then the buttons on the AC controller, we can go back to it. This one is, I assume it can be a power switch. So a power switch, I would use green. Do I have green here? green. I can use light green here. And then do I have some other choices? Light brown. Wow. I'm exaggerating. Definitely I'm exaggerating the color of the choices of color. But anyway, now I have almost everything done. I did all the coloring, except if you want to just be specific on the footer of the room, you can also change the color of that. And we'll try to get rid of these lights because I want it to create some more shadows. In this case, I will delete this light here. And what I can do, and what I like very much to do, is to get spotlights. And the spotlights usually is very dark if I'm lifting this up. You see, it's very dark. It doesn't do anything because power is only 10. So I will try to push it to 100 and see. Now then you can see some focused light. If it is 200, it would be even brighter. I want a warmer light, so I'm going to change it to slightly orangey. And then I can copy, or I can grab around the lights. I can copy by using duplication, which is Shift-E, and then Shift-E, 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 4 lights. Selecting them all together, I want to just focus the light on the pile of books here. What I can do is use Shift-T on the keyboard just to have all the light focused on my mouse cursor, and then I can put my mouse cursor hovering above the book block. And now if I'm using the camera view to see the rendering, and what you will see, it's something like this. It's not very desirable. Actually, the spotlight is not very precise and not realistic also. We don't have spots like in one room just focusing on one point. And in this case, probably I will just introduce back my area light. I'm so sorry about that. I will scale it up and just push it to 200 just to brighten it up a bit, maybe a bit too bright. So 100 is enough. Now, I have a room like this and I want to change the floor to shiny black. Let's see. All right, not bad. Except I forgot to also color the flowers. But anyway, how about another color? Glass, green glass. Wow. So if I put something at the bottom, I will probably see that. And let's see. How about red? Now red is the same as the floor, so I'm not going to use that. Green? Yeah, the choices of color here is really definitely absurd. I like it. Let's put bronze. Moving on to the rendering, what we have to make sure is the dimension of the rendering output is correct. I'm using as normal as how I usually will do. That is the Full HD 1920 times 1080 and cycle render with cycle render. And if I'm taking the camera, I can see the camera output now is orthographic, and that's why I'm rendering this orthographic view of this room. And now going back to the cycle render, unlimited time, but the sample is only 128. Then if I click render button here, it's going to run from one sample to 128. Then you can see the remaining time is only 6 minutes. And definitely it's longer than I usually would do because I would usually put, oh, wow, it's done. It's 6 seconds. I'm so sorry, I misread the number. 6 seconds, we can already run the rendering from sample 1 to sample 128. And it depends on how fast your computer is. My computer is not very fast and I'm not using any help from any specific graphic cards, and in this case I can only run less than 10 seconds 128 sample. And if you zoom in to the image, actually it's not bad. It's denoised. It's enough for you to do basic modeling and rendering. And if you are only exporting images with the dimension of a full HD, then you will have enough quality to send out your work. Unless if you need to render like 4K or 8K, then you probably have to spend a bit more time, and because you will have your image zoom in more, maybe you will want to calculate a little bit more samples. And also it depends also on the camera type. So for now we are having the orthographic camera, but we can also change the camera to perspective. And once I change it to perspective camera, as you can see, we are no longer using the camera as an orthographic view. What is closer to us seems bigger, and what is further away from us will be smaller. And we can change the focal length of the lens, so you can change from 50 to 25 to have a wider lens, but it really doesn't matter. It's your sense of aesthetic. If you want it to be of a wider lens, you can do it of a wider lens. If not, just leave it be. What you can do is to actually focus on some certain thing. For example, if I have let's put the face closer to us, for example here, and if I am taking the camera view in this angle, what I can do is just to do align active camera to view. Now I'm focusing my camera on the face and I want a full view of the face. So I'm going to lock camera to view and just zooming out a bit, panning down a bit. Now I am focusing on the face here. What I can do is to take the camera, going to camera view and turn on the depth of field. And when I turn on depth of field, you can see that the face is already blurred because I'm focusing on the distance of 10 meter. But I don't want to focus on 10 meter. I want to focus on the face actually. So I'm going to take the eyedropper to the flower. It's the same as how you use portrait mode on your phone. So now I'm taking the focus on object on the flower. Everything else will be blurred. And you can also change the focus stop. For now it's 2.8. You can reduce the number to like exaggerate to 0.7. Then what is behind, like the calculator, the window, will be very blurry. And you can also push it up like to number more than 2.8. Then you can see everything seems to be more clear. Of course, you can just turn off the depth of field, but if not, then you can play around with the numbers. I will just keep it 0.7, maybe a bit more, just to have a more cinematic look. Now 0.5, and I can hit render again, and it's going to take just a few seconds to run. So you can see that the edges along around the flowers and the face is very sharp. Everything else is blurry, and it's getting more and more blurry at the end of the room. So now you have the image rendered. You can go to image and save as, name the file you want, put it in the put it in the folder you want, and there you go. You have done many different kinds of rendering, from the orthographic camera view to the perspective camera view. I hope you enjoyed this series. I hope you have get enough technique to get started with the software and do some interesting modeling, texturing, lighting, framing, and rendering. Stay tuned in my channel and I will teach you more, and I will give you more interesting content just to practice with me, and I will learn with you, you will learn with me. I hope you enjoy. Stay tuned. Bye!